Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Nathan Creed with AngelArts.biz. This is the amazing director, Dana Susan Beasley, and we are here today to talk to you about the amazing product called the Family Economy Course. And so, this course was created in the amazing brain of this woman, and
You're making me blush.
and she came up with an incredible idea, which is just something that has changed my life in ways that I could never have dreamed before I moved here 5 years ago to Colorado. So, Dana, what was it that gave you the idea to make this course? What was the inspiration and the passion behind that idea?
Well, actually, it was going through some seminars that a Christian organization, a homeschooling organization, gave, and it was all about the family economy. And I had already written a course called Brand Identity Quest, and so I wanted to tailor it to homeschooling families, especially because I saw that homeschooling families needed to have guidance on how to start businesses.
Right. Mm-hmm. Awesome. That's really cool. And then the second question would be, what was it that really showed you that this was something that you could really believe in, that would work, and that was really valued? What was like that aha moment that you really said, this is something that needs to be out there, and this is why?
Well, our own experience. I mean, my husband Travis, he took my first course that I ever wrote called Brand Identity Quest, and we didn't know it at the time, or before he took that course, we had no idea that he would also be working in the home on his own business. When we first got married, that was not in the scope of things.
Right.
And homeschooling wasn't in the scope of things. It was all accidental, if you will. So we ended up being this homeschooling family, realizing that we all needed to work at home. Myself, my husband, and now our son. And so I saw that as, well, if we need that, then that certainly is true for other people in this situation. Because there's so many moms, especially who, they want to homeschool, but they may be pulled away because they need another income.
Right.
And this is a way for the whole family to be able to have that freedom to always be at home, homeschooling and doing family activities.
For sure. The next question is actually kind of a follow-up to what you just said, is if you could name 5 to 7 of the most common excuses you hear men and women that are the head of the families make that tries to block them from taking that step and being brave enough to take action to either do homeschooling or to have a family economy, or even just finding that liberty away from the traditional mainstream of life. What are those 5 to 7 excuses that are the big ones in your opinion?
When you say the mainstream, going to college and getting a job.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Or
being in corporate America.
Right, or mm-hmm. The woman has to stay home and cook and mm-hmm. clean, and the man has to mm-hmm. go off to work and then come home late and be grouchy, get fat, and go to bed, and all that.
Well, I had to do a paradigm shift, and I may have thought that at one point, that the woman stays at home. I still do. I enjoy my home. I mean, look, we're doing this video in my home.
Right, there's a cat directly behind me right now somewhere, skulking around like a shark. Hey, right. Cuteness.
You also the animals are a lot better behaved than at home. Right. But no, home to me is the center of my life, mm-hmm. and it dawned on me that business needed to be the same. So the whole idea of the man going off to work and the woman staying at home, I realized that actually, if I'm my husband's helpmate, mm-hmm. then that means I use my skills to help my husband right. in his business, which we do. And so I guess that's an excuse that I hear is, well, I'm just a housewife. In fact, I used to say that to myself all the time. I used to say to myself, well, I'm just a fat housewife. Who would care what I think? So that was one of my big excuses.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I'm just going off of my own experience, because it's really all I can speak to. The whole idea of, well, I'm too shy, or, okay, let's take that first. I'm too shy, I'm too introverted. Well, I used to think that too. And so that really held me back for years, because I wasn't taking enough risks as far as being bold.
Right, right.
And I wasn't putting myself out there.
You weren't stepping in faith.
Right. I wasn't. Because I had this excuse that I'm shy and I was a scared little meek thing. Well, not little, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
So, but I've broken out of that because I was just told you what happened today is that I got us an opportunity to be on our local radio show because months ago I created our own local networking group. And somebody in that networking group posted this opportunity to be on a radio show.
You created the environment for
I
success to come to you.
I did.
Exactly.
And now we have a possible radio show.
Exactly. And it's incredible. I guess another thing to ask, I know that wasn't the whole list, but that's okay. But I guess another thing to ask for the sake of time is like, biblically in Scripture, what are some of your favorite verses that you know of that talk about exactly what you're talking about, like, you know, the role of either the man or the woman in the household and just the household itself, and just like from your perspective as a woman, what's one of your favorite verses that kind of define the biblical role of a woman and how it can encourage women right now to also know that they don't have to just stay at home and do all those things. They can do other things. Like I remember you talking about how there's a verse where it talks about how the woman should be a businesswoman and how she should do those things. So what verse was that?
Well, that was Proverbs 31. That was almost the whole chapter.
Gotcha.
So the Proverbs 31 talks about an excellent wife who can find her worth is far above rubies. And then it talks about pretty much how she's a businesswoman. She works with her hands and she sells for profit. She is diligent. Her lamp is on late at night, and she's up early. She takes care of her servants. She
Which does kind of
considers a
imply
field
that
and
she
buys
runs
it.
a household too.
Yeah, she runs a household.
Right, exactly. Right.
She had a lot of authority, and then it talks about how her husband, you know, was proud of her, and she had a good reputation in the gates, and all of that stuff. And so Proverbs 31 was my major inspiration as far as being a businesswoman.
Right.
And again, I always saw it at home because, as you know, the day that I met my husband on a blind date at a castle, before I went, I don't even remember how I got to Psalm 113. It was kind of random. And Psalm 113 said that it says, "You will be a joyful mother abiding in the home." And then it talked about how I would be some sort of significance. I would sit with the princes of my people or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, and so that I took that as a huge promise, and I met my husband that night, and everything changed.
Right.
3 years later, we were married.
Nice.
So, and then another verse, and now we have a cat going bonkers. Before it was a dog. Now this this is a real part about working at home.
Yeah.
We got the cat before we had the dog in another video. So, but, okay, so another verse, and I think it's Isaiah 32:8, but don't quote me on that. It talks about, and this is a paraphrase. This is my paraphrase because it doesn't say woman. It says, "A noble woman makes noble plans and stands by them." And, of course, it said man instead of woman, but I personalized it. So, a long time ago, when I first decided that I was going to get basically an unofficial master's degree in digital marketing, that's what I decided. I needed a noble plan to make myself a wildly successful entrepreneur because that's what I wanted to be.
Right.
And that was the verse that inspired me. That was totally the verse that inspired me. So then I got my first ever home study course, which was by a woman named Allie Brown. And she said on there something, and I'm pretty sure you've heard me say it, that totally changed my life. It said, "Don't make decisions from where you are, but from where you want to be." See, he's heard this a million times. And at the time, my husband and I were running a vacation rental property, and we hated it.
Yeah.
It was like during 2008, 2009, right during the Great Recession, and it wasn't doing good, and we were paying 2 mortgages. But not only that, but we did not like the hassle of it and being on call 24/7 and all of this hassle. We did not like it. And so he decided that he wanted to be an architect, you know, a licensed architect, and I decided I wanted to be a wildly successful entrepreneur.
Right.
And that verse is what led me to that.
And it's really cool too because fast forward some years, a lot of that whole thing played a part as when I first came and lived here for some time, and that's part of the next question. As far as like when you saw potential in other people, what was like one of your first clues that like you could help me and help me in my life with everything you were learning at the time? What was some of the first things that really led you to really know that I had that ambition or that promise? I guess how did you see that potential in me, and being able to like, hey, this is something he can learn from, and how can other people see that in themselves and how they can recognize their own potential?
Well, okay, so when you first lived here, no, actually, no, it was way before then. So you came here and you were 17, you visited, and I did an interview with you. You'll never forget it, yes. And you just amazed me with how, I asked you some question and you came up with these 3 ways to influence people based on your reading of Dale Carnegie.
Right.
And you knew it backwards and forwards, and I could tell then that you were prime material to be an entrepreneur. And even before then, I mean, we were just talking about this today, when you were around 8 and we were at a campfire and you were telling Kit Carson stories.
Right.
Totally improv. Totally. And these kids that were around the campground, loved it and ate it up. And I just remember that. And I remember the joy, the look of joy on his face. And so I've known for a long time that he's a writer. I don't exactly remember how I clued into that, but even way before you came to live with us the first time, I asked your parents if you could come live with us and I could train you.
Right.
That was before that first time that you came to live with us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so funny too.
It.
It's so funny too because now, years later, and thanks to you and also thanks to my girlfriend, I've been inspired to really get into voice work and audio work, doing exactly what I did then, and come up with narrative fairy tales that I make up on the fly and turn it into a YouTube channel. So hopefully that's going to happen soon, and I'll get it up and running and all that. And so I owe a lot of that bravery and courage to do that because you know me, I don't like being on video a lot. Like guys, I don't like being on video a lot.
This is new for him.
Yeah. But it's really cool because everything we do seems to always circle around, whatever it is.
Well, and one of the things that I start with in the course is my goal in that course is to help my students realize what their passions and callings are so that they can turn that into a profit-making machine.
Right.
And so one of the first things that I have every student do is think about their life experiences and write a story about it. Now, I got that idea when I was out of college looking for a job, and I read a book called What Color Is Your Parachute? That's what they said to do.
Right.
And I found that so invaluable. So for me, when I was 8, I was running around the field in the back of our house playing Narnia. And that came full circle because, this was just pretend play, mind you. We just improvised. We didn't have costumes. We didn't have any pretend weapons, nothing. So, and we would spend hours making up these stories about Narnia in the field from our backyard. So then I taught my oldest nieces and nephews how to do that. And they taught their siblings who taught their siblings. And one of the siblings was Nate. Yeah. And he loved it. And somehow, I don't even remember how... I told you about Society of Creative Anachronism, and you knew about D&D and all this stuff. And one day, you came up here for one of my enrichment program days to teach kids how to make these boffer swords that you created and do ditch battling. Right. And we're standing around there saying, I knew I needed to do something for Sam, something for his high school, and to do something enrichment-wise because everything was changing. Right. And we're like, hey, why not do LARPing as an enrichment program?
And now 5 years later, we're still doing it.
Yeah, we're still doing it.
With summer camps in between.
And now we're working on a curriculum for it, too.
Right.
So, yeah. So, that's, and all that to say, that's why I really believe thinking about your experiences is a real cue. It's a clue
Right.
to
Right.
finding out what you're meant to do.
Exactly. And I guess one of the conclusion questions I have for you, getting near the end, would be what next? Like, what are some of the great things you want to accomplish within the next few years?
Oh wow! So I'm always asking that question of other people, and so turn the tables on me. Well, I want to see our I want to see our LARPing nationalized, where any homeschooling family can join the club, join this website portal, and start their own clubs.
Right.
So that it's all throughout the country, even the
Right.
world.
Right.
And even doing like mission camps, taking our summer camp and doing
Right.
a mission.
Right.
And then, of course, our ultimate dream is to have an art center. But in the next few years, I just see us really going after our passions and callings and like, well, you know how I want to be a young adult novelist.
Right.
And I'm working on my novel. I really want to see that done by the summer. That's like one of my key goals.
That's a good plan.
Yeah.
So I guess the last question would be, and the most important one, how has God increased your courage, your faith, and your ability to have confidence in yourself throughout the time that we've been doing LARPing itself and the last 5 years?
Well, okay, so the LARPing, I play this character, Queen Amadorian. And actually, it's a character I invented when I was in high school. And I play a queen. So it's really built this confidence in me, thinking about, well, what does a queen act like? What does a queen think? How does she talk? How does she treat people? That kind of thing. And she really is this projection of what I want to be in the future.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she is mainly. And I want to be strong, and I want to fight for the Lord, and be that princess warrior. So that's one aspect of the queen. But the entrepreneurial journey as a whole has completely changed me. I mean, you've known me your whole life, obviously.
And in just the last 5 years, I know that you are completely different now than you were 5 years ago.
Yeah, even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I've been at this way longer than 5 years.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's actually being an entrepreneur that has changed me the most, because I've had to trust in God like never before. And I've learned that God does not care what's in my pocketbook as much as he cares about what's in my soul.
Right.
And my soul thought that God was going to abandon me.
Right.
And God's been dealing with that with me. And again, today, he proved to me again, I was not abandoned. Yep. He took care of some things that needed to be taken care of. Mm-hmm. Now, I did my part, but God did his.
Right.
So, it's giving me that confidence, and now I am bold. Like I said, I started my own networking group, and then that seems to be leading to having a radio show time.
Exactly.
Yeah. And tomorrow we're starting a networking group for property professionals, so that we can better effectively market my husband's business. Yeah. So we are being bold.
Probably another last question.
Another last.
Right.
Is this like Lord of the Rings?
Just keep coming up with last questions. So this one I hope will be the final one. Is what is the greatest advice you can give those who are female and who feel marginalized, or feel like they've been hurt in life, or feel like they have some reason why they are not worthy to succeed? What is the greatest piece of advice that you can give right now to those people?
Well, it's just like what I told you. God doesn't make trash, first of all. I had to come to that realization about myself.
Right.
And my biggest dream in all of life and eternity is, I know that I'm destined to become God's bride. And that gives me a lot of purpose and meaning, and just having that close relationship with him is the most important thing. And knowing that I don't want my callings and my talents to be buried like I had done before. I don't want to be that person. and I want to use them to God's glory. I want to be a vehicle for God's glory, which is why I started Angel Arts in the first place. And that's kind of one of the reasons why it's called Angel, not because I'm an angel, but because I'm reaching new heights to become more than who I am and to reach for the heavens, as it were.
And a lot of that encouraged you, as I know, to make that Bible study that you've made called, or making that study, Becoming God's Bride.
Yes, I did actually write a Bible study called Becoming God's Bride.
Right.
And I actually led that before I was married. And I think that I was almost the last one to graduate. But no, my point is though that at the end of my life, I want God to say, well done, good and faithful servant. That's what I want him to say. And that gives me the motivation to keep going and to rise above some of the hurts that I've experienced in my life. And that, they weren't they're not wasted. Nothing is wasted. God's economy, he does not waste anything. And so, it's interesting that everything that I went through has helped you. It's helped other people. And so I know that, yes, I did experience a great deal of feeling marginalized, but God can use anyone.
Right, exactly.
And he, even today I was reading how God's heart is next to the poor and the wretched. And so, that's it's not with the tyrant. I wouldn't want to be a tyrant in God's eyes. Yeah. So, if that's where you are, then have courage that God can use you. And I think that was probably one of the biggest eye-opening things to me that ever happened was when I was in college and I heard this guy speak and he talked about how God could use me, and I'm like, what?
Right.
It never crossed my mind. I had such small dreams.
Like that disbelief that, like, wait, how could that even happen? It's...
Yeah, it totally changed my world. Because at that point, I was just going to be an editor of some magazine.
Right.
I had no idea. And that completely opened everything up. And it's probably why I'm here today is because I believed God could use me. And it was a completely revolutionary thought to me at the time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. So I think that's it for this video.
That's really the last one?
Yeah, that's really the last one. So we're going to wrap it up for now. Again, I'm Nathan Creed, and this is Dana Susan Beasley with AngelArts.biz, and we thank you so much for being here.
And P.S., if you want to know more about the course, go to growmyeconomy.com. You can find out about the curriculum. We have it in physical books. We have it in a digital form, and we also have a new video course. Yeah. So go to growmyeconomy.com.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you, Nate.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Together, may we reach new heights in our businesses and beyond.
Sounds good.
All right.
Let's do it.
All right. Yes.
All right.
Here.
Goodbye,
fist
guys.
bump.
Fist bump. Boom.